Hey guys, Kyle from Elite RC Forums here again. A lot of you guys have been wondering something I always wondered as a racer was, how do you know how good your brakes are set up or whatever? And this is a way that I've been telling people about, and some people just kind of need to see it, or it's easier to see it than rather to make sure that they're doing it right. So I'm gonna show you guys on what I do to set my brakes on my own cars. I know that they got a couple of ways. Testman's got a way or two. Drake's got a way or two. Sorry guys, a little bit on the loud side. I was sitting there holding the brakes and turning the wheels and just kind of getting the right feel. But when you don't know what the right feel is, and even when you do, it's still hard to get it exactly right. There's no real measurements, kind of like eyeballing it, I guess you could call it. Like on camber, you were like, they didn't have camber gauges, and you kind of looked at it and was like, oh, it looks right. It seems right. It handles right on the track about. But you'd never know if it was exactly right, just because there's no way of measuring it. So this is a good way that I found of helping to measure it a little bit. My camber might be a little off, I don't know, from my last race. So I'm just going to show you guys on how I do it. This is for anything. This was when I ran my B44 at Redlands Raceway and everything, to adjust the slipper clutch even. So this is what I do. I go and I will gradually push on the brakes, and my brakes are set pretty well for at least the track I last ran at. I usually check and adjust them at every race because they could, brakes wear out throughout racing, so you want to keep checking things like that, kind of like ride height. You want to check your ride height more often than not. It won't kill you if you don't check it, but it's nice to know that it is where it's supposed to be. So what I do normally is a little bit hard with just me here, but I'll get the wing, or I will either get the wing depending on if I have two people. If I have two people, I can have somebody do the remote for me, and I will hold it down like this, hold the wing kind of in the up position to make sure it's not drooping down at all, or too much, or not like picking up. And I'll push the front end down, not slammed on the ground, but just down enough to where it's a couple centimeters or a couple millimeters above the ground, and then I will roll it forward, and the other person will just gradually squeeze on the brakes. And the way I have my brakes set up is when it's almost at full extension, or when the remote is at full extension, the brakes barely go to full lock, where they lock up. This is good because then that way, all the way through, all this is all progressive. Kind of like on throttle. You wouldn't want your throttle to go either from here being full or here full. Like, you'd want it to be the same thing with your brakes. You wouldn't want your brakes full, 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 full. Like, anywhere in there would be full. You want it to be progressive so you have more control. So with here, what I do is I'll get it, and I'll kind of pick the back end up a little bit, and I will push on the brakes gradually and roll it forward. And now we're at full lock. And the fronts still roll a little bit. I'll probably have to adjust those again. But if you can see, when I'm almost all the way full out, we'll just bring it back a little bit. The backs will still roll just enough. I mean, it's a little bit different. I usually do it on the track surface that I'm racing on, or on asphalt if that's almost what the track surface is going to be. So this pit mat doesn't do the same justice as the track or dirt or asphalt that you're running on. But it'll catch on the tires, and this is the way that I tell brake bias from front to rear, is to just push on the front, because when you hit the brakes, like when you're driving and you hit the brakes, the back end comes up, so it gets lighter technically, and more weight goes to the front, weight transfer, so the front actually gets heavier. So you want the front actually to have more bias than the back, just because like if it was at level, you'd want it to the front to have more, just because the front has to go and stop more weight than the back does. You know, it's kind of like if you add weight to a two-wheel drive car in the front, it will want to turn more off power, and if you add weight to the back, it'll want to grip more on power. You know, kind of the same type of thought process. You know, more weight to the front, more bite that the tires are getting because there's more weight to hold the tires down to the surface, and then on the back there's less weight to hold the tires down to the surface. So that's just kind of my way of doing it. I will try to get like an at the track thing for you guys at my next race if I remember, or if I have time, and that way you guys can see firsthand at the track what I mean. Because like I said, the pit mat doesn't do its justice, but hopefully that helps, guys, and I'll show you guys how to adjust them. I'm not going to adjust them, but I will show you where. This is the same on almost every buggy that I know of, or truggy. So you come in here, and in here you have these little thumb screws, right? You got one right there on top, and you got one on the bottom. The top is for the rear brake, at least on the MP9, and the bottom is for the front brake. And you'll do, I use this little set screw as a kind of a marker, and I'll do like a half or a quarter turn. A quarter turn that way would be putting it out, putting the brake out a little bit, which would make the reaction a little bit shorter. Which actually I might keep there because my brakes in the back were a little bit higher than the front. So they were sliding before the fronts were too much. So that's how you do that, and then if you were spin it the other way, it would pull this linkage in closer, which would give you more brake essentially. And that's how I even out the front to the back. And then in the radio, you can adjust on how much brake you have all the way through. So if you have any more questions, guys, let me know. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to comment, rate, subscribe, and don't forget to check out EliteRCforums.net. Thank you guys. Have a nice day.